Welcome to Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior. I am Pei Yi. I'm a parenting and teen challenging behavior specialist at Rainbow Parenting Practice. Over the last 30 years, I've worked with children, teenagers, and then families with various complex needs across different settings. But it is my personal story, being a troubled teenager, that led me to the creation of my innovative parenting method, Thriving Together Parenting Method. It can help you and your team to have a more loving, respect-driven relationship and the happiness and harmony in your family home in 90 days. No matter what challenging behavior it is, how challenging it has been, and for however long your family has been in a difficult place. Many families came to me when they were in crisis or at breaking point. My TTP method is the secret to their transformative family lives. It can be yours too. I am thrilled for you to be here, and that possibly means you are a successful but stressed out parent who is managing a very demanding job but struggling to know what to do and how to help your troubled teen who is stuck in patterns of challenging behavior. You're fed up with trying everything, but nothing works. You're looking for solutions yesterday and are determined to do whatever it takes to help your teen and family thrive. At Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior, I will share all the insights I've learned from working with families and their teenagers over the years. I will not hold back. Let's dive in. Let's do it. Hi, this is Pei Yi and Belle. Welcome to Teen Talk, where we speak about everything teenage related and their parents and their family. And if this is the first time you're tuning to your show, everything on this show is unscripted. And Belle and I may say something very silly, just laugh about it, right? So we hope you enjoy today's show. Right, shall we just dive in, Belle?
I'll pick the cards you.
Okay, you just tell me to stop. So Belle is going to pick a card for the topic we're going to speak about today. As usual, unscripted, so I don't know what we'll be talking about.
Stop.
Right. But I thought, do you know what? But Belle, before we start, I'm just saying, I definitely think our conversation is forever evolving, and it's getting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to find the groove a bit more now in terms of we can talk about. I mean, we've been talking about really good subject, but I think we are braver to diving into the more difficult subject, or you know what, last episode we talked about parental addiction and mental health, and then we also touched a little bit, eating disorder, bullying in the past, but I mean, we're still scratching the surface, but I think we're definitely braver in terms of rather than just talking about general teenager stuff.
Yeah.
We're definitely evolving. That's good. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you. So shall we just do it?
No, you didn't interrupt me.
Let's just do it again. Sorry about this.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. Do you know what?
Oh no. What is it?
We're destined to have this card. You know why? Because the last time I interrupted you, it was this card, and now you asked me to shuffle again and stop, and it's the same card.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's weird. What card is it?
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see the picture, but I can't read it.
It's a critical voices in my head. It's actually a good topic, actually.
This is a good topic.
So this picture said critical voices in my head, including lousy body, stupid. What is late about? What does late about mean? Like you're doing nothing about.
Layabout, I don't know. That's you're a layabout, you don't do anything, you just lie about.
Okay, and then no good. You'll never make it. Rubbish. You're pathetic.
Yeah.
So cruel, these words.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's a very good topic. What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
So I'm thinking of self-critical that's what it said, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, critical voices in my head.
Yeah, critical voices in your head. And I know that those could be coming from things other people have said, but I'm thinking of I think this is something I've experienced and still sometimes experience, that I can be sensitive towards, things my close friends, the way they might act or say, not like necessarily they mean it, but I think you can take things as trying to say is you can be sensitive to other people's words, and they might not mean it personally, but I think it can build up in your head and it can make you be quite self-critical of yourself. Or if someone slightly has a weird reaction to something you say, I think you can really take that in yourself rather than sort of deal with it well. And I also think that you can be quite self-critical if you're going for something you really want or you're really ambitious for or you really need. And when it's something you so want, it's so easy to just sort of not believe you can do it because you think you view it, you put it on this pedestal. So, if you're not confident, don't have that confidence in yourself, that can bring up sort of these thoughts. These are just my random initial thoughts. I don't know if I'm not making much sense in the last podcast.
No, I think it's true though. We all have that self-critical voices. Then the question comes, where are these voices coming from? Where do you think they are from?
I think it can be a mixture. I think sometimes you can latch on to tiny comments. I think, but other times, from my experience, it's been maybe a mixture of tiny comments that aren't meant to hurt me, but that are connected to things I'm already insecure about or things that I think about myself. And I think you can use other people's words to justify your own insecurities that you've made up in your head. Because it's almost like when you're insecure, it makes you more vulnerable to being more insecure because it's like your body just latches onto everything it can get to bring that down more, I guess.
Okay. I'll share my thoughts later, but let me ask you more questions.
Okay.
So do you think we were born with critical voices in our head?
I don't know, because I was talking to this to my mum. And I know I'm talking about personal experience a lot here, but I just randomly am. But I was talking to this about my mum the other day, and when I was a child, I was quite insecure. Like, if I was playing and other people would sort of copy me and play with me, like, or would show that they really want to be friends with me, I would sort of get quite insecure about it. Or, I was just quite insecure in general. I remember being insecure about myself. But at the same time, you also have this sort of confidence when you're a child that you never will have again, that you just like believe you can do. I don't know. I used to just believe that I could just do anything, or I don't know. That's a really complicated question because it completely depends on your childhood and things.
Okay, let's go back, rewind.
Yes,
right?
please.
When you were born, a baby, do you think babies have critical voices in their head?
No, definitely not.
So what happens? At which point do we start to think, I can't do it, I'm so bad, I'm a bad girl, I'm rubbish?
I think when you become self-aware, because that just makes you susceptible to, well, when you're aware of yourself, you'll be aware of yourself in good and bad ways. So
and I suppose the reason I'm asking you this because my perspective is we were not born with critical voice in our heads. Just babies were doing this. However, what happened is throughout our upbringing, childhood, even till this day, possibly, but it's the early stage of our life. We as children, we see ourselves through your parents' eyes, see through the peoples around you, right? That's how we develop our sense of self and our image of self, our self-esteem, our self-confidence, right? So then if you if you grew up in an environment or in a school, I mean, I can give myself a very good example. When I went to school, I remember I was talking about I was a late bloomer and I was always the last. I always got really bad grades, and the teacher was like,
Mhm.
you know what, you need to delay her for a year. Like, what's the
Mhm.
word I'm looking for? Is detain or what? No, it's just,
Mhm.
like put me
Yeah, I know what
go
you
back to
mean.
the year. And then, but then that message to me was saying that actually I'm not good enough to
Mhm.
go to the next level to compete with my peer. Then also
Mhm.
the teacher's words could be very harsh. You know what? You're
Mhm.
stupid. You can't solve this math problem. Do you remember I was
Mhm.
telling you the teacher was smacking my head when I was in my primary
Mhm.
school because I
Mhm.
couldn't solve the problem? Or, the kids laugh at you, or the societal expectation is like, why are you so fat? In the culture, why are you such a chubby boy or a chubby girl? Like, why eat this, not
Mhm.
this? And why you so
Mhm.
tanned? You're not pale. Like in
Mhm.
Asian culture, you need to be pale to be
Yeah, yeah.
pretty, or you have to be slim and all these things. And that back in my ear, I mean, this is still the same, but back in my era, those voices from the environment, from the people, influences how we see ourselves.
Mhm.
And then, like you say earlier, in terms of that, I suppose what you're saying, that security is coming from attachment, isn't it? Is your closeness, the bonds with the people who care for you, and that will be your mom and dad. How they are responding to your needs when you were a baby, when you were 2 year old, when you're 1 year old. Were they listening to your cry? Were they responding to your cry? Did they responding, in the way that is right for you? Were you just hungry, or were you angry? Were you, your nappy needing changing?
Mhm.
And that is part of the development. But I'm saying,
Mhm.
what I'm saying, coming back to, is the critical voices are from the people, from the societal expectation, from the cultural expectation. It's a lot of them. And then, like you say, people project things onto us. And there's a bit about
Yeah.
interject. Your mom will love this interjection. It's like,
Mhm.
people think I am a failure, I can't do it. And then you start to think, I must be a failure and I can't do it because I can't solve this math. And
Yeah.
even the next math, I still couldn't solve it. Then,
That's such a good point because this is something I think about quite a lot. And it's like when you were talking about beauty,
Mhm.
how you had to be all these sorts of ways. It's so different in every culture. So I always wondered how come it's ingrained into us. Like one culture will be like, oh, I want to gain weight, I want more
Mhm.
carbs, and the other
Yeah.
culture would be, I want to be more skinny, I want to
Mhm.
be thin. And like one culture, it's just so different. And I've always kind of wondered how come it is that that's worked out that way,
Mhm.
because you just grow up with these ideas, and I guess that's probably why, is because it is just ingrained into us, these ideas, when we're younger. But
Yeah.
then do you think it's possible, that leads me to think, like, do you think it's possible to bring up a child with like the minimum of that, like the minimum of self-doubting thoughts, or to not bring them down, like, and how you would do that?
I think it's I'm not, you know what? This is a really good question. I'll find this question quite difficult to answer, because how your
Mhm.
children will be and how they see themselves. Yes, as a parent, you play a very important role in that. But then don't forget, there's also a lot of other influences around the children and teenage children. I could be telling my children, you're lovely kids, you're doing great, build that up, and they can feel very good about themselves and doing things. I can do this, it's not a problem. But then if they go to school being bullied, or the teacher constantly saying like, you can't do this, you're not doing that, they will come back very defeated, thinking,
Mhm.
eh? So I think it's never a yes or no answer.
Mhm.
But I think you, as parents, you can definitely foster that
Give
self-image.
them the tools to deal. Give them
Yeah,
the
give it,
tools to
what,
handle.
and yeah, because you want them to feel confident about themselves, to be accepted of what's that, accepting themselves. Like, this is the way I am. My eyelid.
Mhm.
Because my eyelid is like really heavy eyelid,
Mhm.
and not every Asian eyelid is like that. So when I you know what, people can see. But when I do my eyeshadow, I really need to go like half of my eyelid here. So then people can see my eyelid. This is a bit scary. Right. So, but then it took me years because I was so different. It took me years and years and years and years, Bill, to accept actually I love my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and that then you always have that voice is like, oh, my eyes are terrible, they're ugly, they're heavy, there's two inwards, and it's like those, you know, and he's just like, oh,
yeah. Because
but
I think when you're younger as well,
mm,
you just naturally compare yourself to people around you. Like when you become self-aware, you become more aware of the people around you, what they look like, how they're acting.
yeah.
And I remember, you know, you do pick up on, oh, I wish I had looked like that, or I wish this, or like you do pick up on those things, I think.
Absolutely.
As
And I
well.
think this is a like a thought. It's a lifelong struggle, I would say, Belle. Because
Yeah, definitely.
no matter how successful you are, right, you will still have self-doubt in terms of, can I do this? Or that critical voice telling you, usually the people very close to you and raise you up, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You know what? When I was working with my families, because someone, you know, I always have to I give them advice about what to do, thinking about strategy together. And then when they're parenting their children, they'll be like, hey, I hear your voice telling do this instead, not do that, do this instead, not that. So we all have that voices, right? From whoever that person is. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be your granny. It depends on whoever, but the external circumstances definitely influence how that voices come forward or silenced a bit more. I suppose then my next question, Bill, is like, so when teenagers or parents will have this self-doubt as well, like critical voice, I'm a bad parent, I'm a failure, I can't even help my teenagers, you know, who is hurting themselves, or who is trashing the community, or who is smoking weed, I can't even help them. I am a terrible parent, I'm rubbish, you know, I'm stupid, I can't do these things. So parents will have these voices too, as well as the teenagers. I suppose I'm wondering how can teenagers navigate this when the critical voice came forward, like so loud in your head?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? What sort of strategy you used before?
The sort of strategies I used before is I've definitely successfully got rid of a lot of them, most of them. I don't think I'm a very insecure person, but I definitely used to be. So I would sort of handle that by, I think once I came to realize that what people say isn't actually what, like, I just stopped taking things personally. And with that, I sort of stopped being so harsh on myself, and I got the confidence and the tools to deal with these insecurities. But I don't know, because it is such like a lifelong issue, like it's so ingrained into us.
I wonder if, because as you mature and as you get to know yourself a bit more, as you feel more confident, you have more capacity to be able, like what you say, is filtering what people are saying to you. So somebody could make a comment to you and you could be like, ooh, okay, I feel like that. But you can pause and think, but that is not true. This is how I am. This is who I am. So then deflect whatever that comments. So then it's just because you're feeling more secure and you know who you are and what kind of person you are. So then you, like you say, you don't take it personally, just like, yeah, rubbish, moving on. You know, I wonder if that is so of things that actually that helped you to navigate this. And like you said,
Yeah.
this is difficult. It's really, really hard when you're thinking I'm rubbish, I'm pathetic. And then if some of the people, not directly and
No, not directly.
not or intentionally to say things to you, and then you confirm like actually they're implying I'm stupid, you know, and it's really vital in terms of how things were communicated and how that landed with the young person. If you feel like your young person struggle with self-esteem and always have that critical voice in their heads, you would probably want to check in with the teenagers. Hang on a second, you know what? I just say this, but how do you receive that? How does that land with you? and then I can open up communication as to, oh, that's not what I meant, this is da 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 da.
Yeah.
So then you can help out with the critical voices from my perspective. But at the same time, I'm thinking some of the helpful strategies, genetic strategies I think for parents too. So it'll be really helpful. So maybe if parents, you're struggling with that critical voice in your head as well as teenagers, in addition to what I just said to the strategy for teenagers, I think what is really helpful is to think about your own strengths. When you're thinking, I'm rubbish, I'm this, you want to quickly think about, hang on a minute, hang on a second here, what are my strengths? And what will people say my strengths are? Because you want to look at the positive, and nobody is ever rubbish. I could be rubbish at playing the cello, but I practice and I could be good, and I could be a professional player. No, it's not going to happen. But just give an example. But I suppose it's coming from my perspective. Look at your strengths. So when you have those moments in doubts, you can always go back to your strengths list to say, hey, no, that's not, because the mind does play a trick on us, right? And you start to think, oh, that is true, I'm feeling terrible. But when you can visually see your strength list, you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm really good at this. Yeah, rubbish. So that could be a really good way to silence the critical voice. And the other way to think about it is to try to find the evidence. If you're thinking, I am pathetic, find the evidence to suggest that you're pathetic, and find the evidence to suggest you're not pathetic. And you'll find very often people will struggle to find the evidence to suggest they're pathetic or they're stupid. Because that's the feelings of thinking like, I'm doing this, and then they just can't get out. So I think that would be good.
And even then, like, if they do find evidence, it can be something small that they've worked up in their heads to mean something bigger, when it's really just normal behavior.
Absolutely. And these critical voice can be silenced and can be smaller voice. You can make the decision not to let these voices dominate how you are, how you feel, who you think you are, what you can do, what you cannot do. And that's a choice parents can make, and that's a choice. Teenagers probably struggle with that, so they need help. And as like I said earlier, as you mature, you find it easier. But this is definitely a lifelong lesson for everybody. I still I work with parents like 50, 60 years old. They still have self-doubt, and they're very successful. They're still doubting themselves. Am I doing the right thing for my kids? Am I a terrible dad? Am I a terrible mother? So this is hopefully these strategies will be helpful, just to think about finding the evidence, write a strength list for yourself to think about. Actually, there's a lot of evidence suggests I have a lot of strength. So then whatever is the critical voices in my head it's not really valid.
Yeah.
But then going back earlier, what we say is we really started early. So you want to build your teenage children's self-esteem, and help them to think positive about themselves. Is that your mum?
Yeah.
Hi, Nikki. We're just closing the show. We're just finishing. Right. Yeah. So now coming back to the curiosity for the family, or actually for family.
Yeah, because for this, I'm about to say, it's like, because normally we'll do a curiosity for the teenager and the parent, but I think self-criticizing is something every single person ever does to different extents. So I guess it's more overall advice. It's like, but also being aware that letting yourself be insecure and succumbing to these thoughts can affect your relationships with your children or parents. But I don't know, I just go back to what you kind of said there, and just sort of try and appreciate yourself a bit more, and try and, even if you're not doing as well as you kind of wanted to, but kind of looking at where you are and all the things you have done, and just being a bit more gentle with yourself, and if we're talking about how we were talking about beauty standards at the beginning, just understanding that is, like I said, completely different in every single culture. and it's completely just ingrained into you from where you are.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will just add my final thoughts. I think it would be really, really helpful if we all can be curious about where that voice, critical voice, come from. Be curious about who that voices are. Whose voice is really this? Is it from your high school teacher? Is it from your culture? Is it from your society? Do you know, is it from your grandma or my granddad? Who is that critical? Who is that critical? Or is it from yourself? Right. So be curious about whose voice is that. Once you know whose voice is that, I want everybody to be curious about and having a conversation with that voice. Right.
Yeah.
So thinking about if the person say you're thinking about you're rubbish, it's like, what? Tell me again. What makes you think I'm rubbish? And you'll be really curious to find that you'll be really interested to find out how that conversation evolves and what comes out of the conversation, and they will be a very interesting exercise to do. So the parents can try this. But if you want to practical strategy, go back to like what I say, find it others and appreciate yourself and to support yourself as a parent and support your teenagers. And I mean, anybody in your family, really, because this is just there, Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to the show. I hope you enjoyed our chat today. I really like this topic. There's so much to talk.
Yeah, there is so much to talk
Exactly.
about.
It's such a shame we're only having 20-30 minutes today, but anyway, we can always come back to this topic in a time or in different episode. But thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to the show so the families and the parents can find our show organically. So we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
See you in the next episode.
Bye. Thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. If you find this show helpful, please hit that follow or subscribe button. It does wonders for the show, so more people can find Teen Talk Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior organically. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please drop me a line at pei@teentalkpod.com. That is PEI-I@teentalkpod.com. I read every email I get. Whether that's an episode idea, a guest recommendation, or just a simple note about how the show has impacted you. I'd love to hear from you. I am Pei, and I'll see you on the next episode.